Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans, number 38. I'm Fred Green. For the next two episodes, our guest is Darrin G., senior coach of the Spirit of Golf Academy in Waikoloa, Hawaii. Now, in these conversations, we break down his book, The 7 Principles of Golf, point by point. Actually, this episode is Principles 1 through 3, and we'll discuss 4 through 7 next week. Now, why I enjoy talking to Darrin is that his Spirit of Golf Academy offers a complete approach to golf, blending the mental game with your natural swing. The program has helped over 10,000 golfers, from pure beginners to seasoned golf pros. It helps them change the way they approach golf and actually, in a lot of ways, their lives. So for more, check out spiritofgolfacademy.com, and I'll leave that link in the show notes. Also, at the time of this recording, there's a $50 off coupon for the Academy, so you might want to check it out soon. Golf Smarter Mulligans is brought to you by twoguyswithgolfballs.com. What can I tell you about buying golf balls? You don't really need to buy new golf balls, do you? Have you been? It's really a lot of money for golf balls, sometimes over $4 a ball, right? Well, the thing is, when you go to twoguyswithgolfballs.com, you're going to get quality just as good as if it was a brand new ball, except it's been hit maybe once. That's the thing. They have resources all over the United States where they get used balls that have been found in the woods, in the water, or wherever, and then they hand inspect each one, and then they grade them for quality. The Eagle quality ball is similar to a brand new ball. No seconds, no X-outs, no reprints. Now, there may be some marks on the ball, but they're not marks of wear. They may be a logo, or even whoever lost it, their own personal mark. I personally have a circle all the way around it and a dot. You're going to be so pleased with getting these balls, the Eagle quality balls. You're going to pay sometimes less than half price of a brand new ball. And you'll only do that at twoguyswithgolfballs.com. And if you're a Golf Smarter listener, which you obviously are, or a Golf Smarter Mulligans listener, you're going to get an additional 10% off every time with every order, no matter how many times you order. That offer expires on April 1, 2020. Again, use Golf Smarter at checkout to get that additional 10% off from twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Welcome, Darrin.
Aloha, Fred. How are you?
Aloha, my friend. I'm Howley. Is that okay?
That's okay.
I'm a mainlander.
That sounded pretty good there. Good enough for you to come out and visit us here on the Big Island.
Which I would love to do on a regular basis. And being on the West Coast, it should be a lot easier for me, shouldn't it?
That's a quick flight.
Yeah, it's only 4 hours.
In fact, you can hop on the 1 o'clock and be here by 3 o'clock, and we could be teeing up by 4. Still get in 9 holes.
Oh, you wanted to do the interview? Oh, sorry. I thought
You're on the way.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry. I came back to say I'm out the door. I thought I had you go in there for a second. Darrin, you have a fascinating story, and thank you for letting me review your book and your videos before we talked.
You bet.
And I really enjoyed the 7 Principles of Golf. It's not like you're saying anything that's new or different, but I do like the way that you said it. You really synthesized it in a very nice way and made it very clear. But you have an interesting story yourself about how you became a frustrated golfer. Can you share that with us to start?
Sure. Well, I started playing golf when I was a freshman in college. I took an intramural class, and with that very first swing, just fell in love with the game. And, over the years, my game steadily improved. It kind of went up and down. You know how everyone experiences that.
Oh, yeah.
But it got to the point where I thought I was getting very close to the best I'd ever be able to play, or my potential. But instead of reaching that top level of my game, I started to flatten out my ability. And then I went south because I lost trust and I lost confidence in my swing. And that's when I started to tinker with it. And I started to read a lot of books and magazines and manuals and listen to any opinion on the driving range.
And podcasts. Oh, you didn't have podcasts.
Oh, yes, that too. Well, I don't think... Were you doing that way back then?
No.
I'm pretty old, so...
Yeah, we both are, yeah. There were no podcasts. But you see,
I don't think they had that. They didn't have computers back then.
No, they didn't. If you only had podcasts, you would not have had these problems.
That's right. It would have been solved a long time ago. But as a result, my game went south. I got frustrated, and I ended up quitting the game, saying, forget this, it's just too much, because I knew I could play well, but it wasn't happening for me. And I took about a 4 or 5 month break, which was a long time for me to, not pick up a club. And when I returned to the game, I started just working on my mental game, how to get myself to relax, get myself to focus and concentrate and eliminate the distractions. And that's when my game took a stair-step leap in how I was playing. And what I noticed was the thing that I was doing was I wasn't going through a checklist in my mind about, my elbow or my head or my knees or anything like that. I was simply allowing my body to do what it already knew how to do, and that's make good, solid golf shots. And that was the birth, if you will, of the 7 principles of golf.
Okay. Well, I think that there's many people that can relate to that kind of story and that kind of frustration. And I also, if you don't mind, I'd like to apologize for you to everyone who lives in the eastern seaboard and northeast of the United States and in Europe, because when you said, I took 4 or 5 months off and that's a long time, they do that every year.
Yes, I understand.
I'm so sorry. I can't imagine
That's
being
why they
forced.
need to visit us here in Hawaii during those 4 or 5 months.
That's right.
They are more than welcome to do that.
I can't imagine taking 4 or 5 months off every single year.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, I lived in the Midwest for some time.
Okay.
A couple of years, and it is frustrating. It is frustrating, but you know what? You get your
especially
putter
when
out.
You're the only guy walking around with a Hawaiian shirt in the Midwest.
Right. They're like, "What are you doing out here in 30 below weather?" You got me, So I was in the first plane back to Hawaii after that. But you actually swing. You learn to swing clubs inside the house. You learn to watch DVDs and videos and read about golf to keep your mind fresh about it. So.
Right. So the book is the 7 Principles of Golf. Then you have the DVDs are Putting and Full Swing.
Yes.
But all of it is centered around the idea of mastering the mental game of golf.
Yeah, and to me that, and we all know it, we all say it, and golf is 90% mental, and yet you ask people, how much of your time or practice do you ever dedicate towards that side of the game, and most people say none. In fact, I know that at a PGA conference out in Florida, they interviewed, they polled everyone in a big conference, these are all teaching pros, how many people think it's more mental than physical. Everyone raised their hand, and they asked how many people work on mental more than physical. Nobody raised their hand.
Interesting.
And I knew right there, with my experience and the kind of information like that coming out, that this was something that people needed and wanted. They just didn't know how to get it. So, like you said before, the concepts that I'm sharing and teaching are universal. But what I've done is made it very practical, simple, easy to use for any level player. So whether you're a pure beginner, you could pick up the book and gain some facts. If you're a PGA Tour player, you can do the same. And I've worked with Jerry Kelly, and he said that what we're teaching is what every golfer needs to have in their learning process. And
you take a holistic approach.
Yeah, holistic. And the word holistic to me describes a little of everything. It's having the balance of your physical game, your mechanics, your mental game, really being in shape. A lot of people, it's funny, when they go out and they play golf and they're not in the best shape in the world, and they wonder why they're not shooting 72. And they're trying to determine what your personal goals are, and then how you can reach that. And it's all a lot of different elements to the game to do that.
I found that some people's expectations, I receive emails and I talk to people, and the expectations are awfully high that they think that it won't be that long between the time they break 100 and the time they break 80. How do we break it to them that it's not that simple?
Well, it's really, to me, it's the individual, and it depends on, I always tell people, or ask them, what do you want? And a lot of times when I ask that question open-ended, you get the deer in the headlights look, because they don't know what they really want in the game or what they want to achieve. So I think that's first and foremost. If they really, truly want to break a 80 and they're shooting 100 right now, and then it's then becoming, creating a plan to achieve it. So moving from A to B, not just thinking it's going to happen like that. But I think the most important thing is that they need to have very clear-cut vision and goals for what they want to achieve, and then create a plan to achieve it. And a big part of that is, again, your mental game, how you look at it, how you approach the game, looking at the overall holistic approach to it so that you can have an all-around game.
And like as you talk about in the book, when you're on the tee box, it's picking a target, right? I mean, that's right. Really in more than one way. And a lot of the stuff that you talk about is on and off the course mental game approach.
Yeah, to me, when people email me 3-4 months later after taking our program or reading the book or watching the DVD and saying, this has had an incredible impact on my game, but more importantly, it's impacted how I live my life, to me that's more gratifying and satisfying, and that happens all the time, because these same 7 principles, things like balance and visualization and having rituals that you can use to help you achieve peak performance, apply as much off the golf course as on the golf course. So professional success, personal success, certainly these 7 principles will work for that. And you can replace the word golf with almost anything really. And I've been asked to already adapt these 7 principles to other sports, to life in general, to business, because they really do apply.
And you came from a business background, right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't get into the golf industry until moving out here to Hawaii back in 2000. Prior to that, I was working in the corporate world. I was in marketing, strategy, and sales for consumer products companies, and then I went back, got my MBA at Northwestern, and then went to work as a consultant, strategy consultant, as a consultant across the world, really. So I worked with all kinds of companies, and I could see that in organizations where the top people were being successful, they all had that same approach as what we're teaching in the 7 principles. They had balance in their lives, they focused on what they really wanted to achieve, and they had a plan to get there. And then execution after that was really easy. It's really determining what you want and how you're going to get there. That's the tough part. And the same thing in golf. A lot of times people step to the tee, like you mentioned, they don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they want to achieve. They don't know where, they just want to hit the ball down there, and then it goes all over the place. What I tell people is, let's talk about what our goal is here. We want to end up with our ball right there at that very single spot to set up your next shot. So that's the shot you want to create.
Interestingly enough, I've been playing a lot with my son recently, who's been home for the summer, and he's just starting to play, and he got bit badly. Oh, man.
He's got the bug.
He has got the bug. But I tell him to, because I'm having so much fun with him. But I talk about picking a target. I say, find a place to hit it, and he says, I just want to be able to hit it. I just want to hit it squarely. And it's like, yeah, you'll do that too but picking a target is really that important.
Yeah, it really is. Otherwise, you could hit it, but where's it going to go?
Right.
I think a lot of people focus on the ball, and it's where it's located now rather than where they actually want to be. And a lot of times what that does is it prevents them from actually achieving the end goal. So it's really important to do that when you're on the green. Same thing. A lot of people hit a putt, and I ask them, and they miss it. Maybe they'll miss the putt, and they get all mad, and I ask them, before you actually hit the ball, what did you have in mind? What was your goal? And they think about it, and the answer I get 9 out of 10 times is, I just wanted to get it close. And when they say that, I say, well, congratulations, you're creating exactly what you want. So I tell them they have to up-level their game and say, I want the ball in the hole, because that is really the ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. You've talked about 4 or 5 things that I wrote notes down that I wanted to go over. And if we can, I'd really like to go over the 7 principles of golf. I'd love to get some tips and advice from you, because the book is full of that stuff. Where do we start at number 1?
Well, sure. Well, I want to say about the book, it's really simple. That was my goal, to make it as simple and practical as possible. And there are a lot of other tools out there, and my frustration was that I wanted something that I could follow step by step, so I really made it a step-by-step process. And it just happened to turn out to be 7 principles that people can follow one by one. So,
well, congratulations, because you set out a goal and you achieved it.
Yeah, there you go.
Now that's interesting what you just said. Does that mean that you didn't know you were going to have 7 before you wrote the book?
I did not. I literally did not know there were 7. In fact, there were.
You didn't have a goal before you got started.
Well, I knew there was going to be a process, and when I wrote them down, I actually wrote this book prior to even coaching anyone, and it took about a week. It just flowed right out of me, and I put it on the shelf, and then 3 years after coaching, I went back and added in anecdotes from folks who have taken the clinic so that you can relate to them. But it was really easy to do, and originally there was, I think I wrote it out, and there were 6 principles. And I went for a walk. I go, there's something missing. And literally, I went for a walk down the beach here in Hawaii, and the 7th principle just popped right up there. So I knew there was something missing. Once I got that, I knew it was set.
So was it number 7 or was it number 4? Or which one was missing?
I don't remember. I think it was number 5, actually. Number 5 came in. It's like, there it is.
Awesome. So then let's go over those 7 principles. Maybe we'll do 3 this time, and we'll see. We'll see how far we can get along here.
You bet.
Where would you start?
Well, always at the beginning. The
Good
first
start.
principle is called getting grounded or finding your balance. And
Huge.
To me, balance is the foundation of the swing, the foundation of everything. You think about it. I see a lot of beautiful swings every day, and I'm sure everyone does when they go out to the golf course, see some beautiful swings. But every now and then you see those swings accompanied by a lack of balance. Maybe someone's leaning too far backwards or forwards or left or right, and that causes them to mishit the ball. So what we tell people is that first and foremost, before you even think about swinging the club, is make sure that you're rooted and grounded and balanced. And once you have that, then everything else starts to fall into place. If you don't have that, then you're kind of working with a shaky foundation, sort of like, a house. Shaky foundation, shaky house. But if you have a strong foundation, everything else builds from there.
I found that out on my own. I'm so glad that you confirmed it for me. Just a week or so ago, I realized that I was really on my heels when I was getting myself ready, and tried to put a little more pressure, a little more weight on the front of my feet and balance my body. And from that moment on in that round, I was hitting the ball beautifully all day long.
I'm glad to hear that helped. Yeah, and I tell people, if you think about it, in every other sport, baseball, basketball, tennis, you name it, you talk about being balanced. You're always kind of standing on more of the ball of the foot, a little bit more forward. And I ask people, why is that so? And most people say, well, that way I can move in any direction. I don't know where my opponent's going or where the ball's going. I go, precisely, you can move in any direction. You're in the perfect balanced position. And I say, well, why in golf do you do something different? And they're like, I don't know. I said, let's try it. And then immediately you can see the impact just like that.
Yeah. You said before about the people, they focus on the ball. They're focused on the ball. Should we focus more on the ball just being in the middle part of our swing? I mean, is it more of a swing focus we should concentrate on?
What I tell people is that in terms of the process, the 7 principles is, number one, you got to know what you want. And once you say, I want my ball here, and you visualize how you're going to get there, I'm kind of skipping over to the 3rd principle. Then it's all about letting your body take over. So finding your balance, having, the grip that feels comfortable, and then letting it go, not having any extraneous thoughts in between. So a lot of people say, well, what do you think about when you swing the club? I go, ideally, nothing. If you can keep your mind completely blank, then what's happening is that you're allowing your body to do what it already knows how to do. Is remember those good shots. And the second you start going through a checklist, then you're competing. Kind of that left brain, right brain. Your analytical side and your free movement side start to conflict. So what I tell people is minimize the number of thoughts, and again, that's in one of the principles that we get to. That's the 4th principle, ritual. But what we can do is we can work our way towards those, and I can get into more detail when we get to that.
Go for it.
Okay, so the second principle is about feel, and feel is all about how you connect with the golf club. And a lot of people, when they grip a club, I ask them on a scale from 1 to 10, what is your grip pressure? And we've heard the whole thing, everything from 1 to 10 and everything in between. And people think, well, what should it be? And to me, it's about finding what should be for you. You got to find your own individual connection to the club. And for some people, it's holding it real light. Some people holding it more medium or even higher. But I tell people, experiment with it. Don't just stick with 5 or 3 because that's what you think it is. Experiment till you find what works. And what I find is the majority of the folks that I've worked with benefit from having a lighter grip pressure. And what that does is it frees them up a little bit. With a death grip, all the muscles tighten up. They lose that free motion and that freedom that everyone can achieve in the swing. So most people end up lightening up. That being said, I've had a few people that, they're better at an 8 or 9 even, and that's where they play their best. So I tell people, find that grip pressure that feels perfect for you. That in combination with having a solid foundation, that balance, that's when you get the most out of your golf swing. You have the combination or juxtaposition of strength, that balance, and flexibility with the light upper body.
So you don't have a recommended grip rating for? I mean, like if I were to say, yeah, I'm about a 6 in my grip, it's like you're squeezing too tight still.
No, I think it's really up to the individual. That's something that you need to experiment with. And in the book, it talks about how you can do that. And I literally tell people to go through and hit, make 10 swings with the 10 different grip pressures from 1 to 10. And determine, without thinking too much, which one felt the best. And which one felt where, that really was enough. And what I always like to describe it as being light but not too light. A grip pressure that's light, but if it feels like it's slipping out of your hands too much or you're losing control, then that's probably too light, and then go up a half a notch. On the other end, if you get a grip pressure and then you go up, from say a 3 to 4, and 4 feels like, oh, that's more than I need, then probably you're better off at a 3. So it's really about calibrating, and it's a self-assessment. I can't do it for anybody. I just help them and guide them to find that. And once they find it, then I say that's what you want to stick with on a consistent basis. And that's really important because a lot of times people, when they get nervous, they're in a pressure situation, they feel rushed from people behind. What happens naturally is that grip tightens up, and they lose that fluidity in the swing, and they don't get the quality that they're looking for in their shot. So it's really that combination, going to finding something that's just about right and then being able to be consistent with it.
Excellent.
Yeah. Now, the third principle is called visualizing the shot. And to me, that's all about what we've already been discussing several times during our conversation today, is that what people often do when they step up to a ball is just say, I'm just going to hit it. Or, like you mentioned, your son says, I just want to connect. And that doesn't really get them to what their ultimate goal is. So what we tell people is, first and foremost, you got to know what you want. So visualization is 3 simple steps, and one is knowing what you want. So I want the ball in the hole on a putt. Maybe if you're hitting an approach shot from 150 yards, also I want the ball in the hole. If you're on the tee, I want my ball to end up at that exact spot in the middle of the fairway. Once you set that up, then you can then determine how you're going to get there. And for me, that's called visualization, or imagining how you're going to hit the ball. And for a lot of people, they hit good shots, but it doesn't end up where they want because they don't plan how it's going to get there. So, for example, if the wind is gusting left to right and the fairway sloped left to right, if you aim right at the flag and hit the ball straight, that ball's going to go to the right and kick off to the right. So I tell people, you always got to consider the environment, what your game is, what kind of shot you hit, then determine how it's actually going to fly in the air, land, bounce, roll, and stop. And the greatest players, in fact, almost every player on tour today, they all visualize their shots from start to finish. And one of the greatest that's ever done this is Jack Nicklaus, and he remembers shots that he took 40 years ago because of his visualization ability. And it's something that's really simple. I think anyone can do it. It just takes a little training, if you will, and that's what we talk about. So in the book, we have illustrations for how you can visualize a line that goes to where you want it to go.
In the book, the third principle, the visualize the shot, you have a quote to open the chapter by Annika Sorenstam, and I really like this one. She says, I close my eyes and I see the shot. I look at the ball and see the type of shot I have in my mind. I see it fly and then I see it land. It's a way of seeing the result before you do it. I visualize the end result. Great.
Powerful, huh?
Yeah, really good.
That's it. That's why she's Annika. I mean, and she's done that with not only every shot, but her career and what she wants to do with her life in the next chapter too. So it's pretty amazing how that one technique can be so powerful. And what she liked about it, she visualizes what she wants in the end, And in that quote, she never talks about, and then I think about where my elbow is or where my head is. She doesn't talk about any of that. Mm-hmm. In her mind, she's already hit the shot that she wants. And I think to me, that's most of it. And once you do that, then it's just trusting and committing to it. And that's something that what I've noticed working with a lot of over 7,000 people over the last few years is that a lot of people don't commit to their visualization. So in other words, they know what they want, they see a line, and then they step up, and the next thing the doubt creeps in, and they're like, do I want to hit this club or that club? Do I want to hit the high or low? And they get stuck in the middle. And as a result, that affects the quality of the shot, and they get kind of that middle range shot. So I tell people that once you see your line, you commit to it 100%, that's when you're going to hit your best shot. And if you do step up and doubt creeps in for whatever reason, or you get distracted, that's a sign to stop, step back, start it over again.
In the middle of the chapter, you talk about visualize the shot off the golf course. What does that mean?
Same thing in your life. So, for most of us, amateur golfers, we have another life. We work, we have family, we have personal achievement. And what I tell people is that, again, you ask that question, well, what do you want in your life? And a lot of times people give me that deer in the headlights look, like, I don't know, I've never really thought about it. So if you don't really have a goal for what you want to achieve in your life, a lot of times you're kind of rudderless. You're kind of moving in all different directions. You may be moving in the right general direction, but really not having that focus to head to where you want to go. So I tell people, what do you want in your life professionally? What do you want in your life personally? What do you want in your life physically and emotionally, financially? What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to be? And then once you set that and you have a goal, that sets everything in motion towards that goal. And then again, visualizing how you're going to achieve it, and really at that point you have to get out of your own way, because we tend to self-sabotage. We tend to get in our own way a lot and trip over ourselves. And I say, hey, don't sabotage yourself. Just go for it.
Great.
And that's what you got to do in golf too. You got to see what you want, say what you want, see it, and then go for it. Don't say, I don't know if I can hit this shot, or I'm worried about the guy I'm playing against. You just got to step up, commit, and let it go. And that's when people play their best. They get into that peak performance mode, or the zone, if you will. And
am I getting ahead of myself, or did I miss an opportunity to bring up the idea that I read that I just thought this was so cool when you told a person to listen?
Yes, listen. Well, I think a lot of times when we're on the golf course, we kind of get up in our head and we don't pay attention to what's happening. And so one of the exercises that we talk about is really heightening all your senses. And we see, we smell, we taste, we feel, and we hear.
So does this fall under the feel part?
This is kind of the feel part.
Yeah, okay, good. Then I did miss my part.
Yeah,
okay, well, then I'm glad I bring
so we're stepping back a little bit. But what it is when you're on the putting green, listening for that ball falling in the cup. And what that does is that ball falling in the cup and rattling, that sound is your end goal. That's what you want to achieve. And so if you're listening for it, subconsciously your body then says, that's my goal. I want to achieve that, and it raises your level of performance and really focuses you on achieving that goal. So it's a very powerful tool to do on the golf course, and one of the exercises I talk about is about hitting some putts, setting it up, lining it up, saying what you want, seeing the line, and then setting up and closing your eyes and just letting it go and listen for that sound. It's amazing how well you can play with your eyes closed.
Well, even listening on the fairway,
Yes.
I mean, how many times when you hear a shot, you don't even have to be watching your playing partner. You can hear it and go, you hit that thin.
Yep.
Oh, you hit that fat. Oh, that sounded great.
That's right.
It's
all connected. And another thing is a lot of people always say, I keep lifting my head up, I keep looking, and I say, well, all you need to do instead of thinking about, keeping my head down is just listen for the sound. Once you hear the sound of the ball, of the club striking the ball, then you can look all you want, right? But listen for that sound, that crisp sound, and then boom, that connects you also.
One of the favorite quotes that I received from a listener is something that his dad used to say to him all the time, is this: if you lift your head up early, the only thing you're going to see is a bad shot.
Loved it.
Okay, so where we go next here? We got to, number 3 was visualize.
That's right. 1 was balance, 2 was feel, 3 was to visualize the shot. And 4 is called creating your own pre-shot ritual. And obviously everyone knows about pre-shot routines, doing the same thing before every shot. And that
you don't call it a routine, you call it a ritual.
Yeah, and the reason why is when I was writing, I go, what's a routine to me is something that you do, it's mundane, it's boring, it doesn't really have much of an impact. It's something you just kind of do automatically and doesn't really have much meaning. To me, rituals are more meaningful, they're more significant in your life, and they're personal. And a client said this the other day. He said, well, gosh, that sounds like it's really personal. I go, it is. You want to create a ritual that's yours. Don't try to be Tiger. Don't try to be me. Don't try to be your friend down the road. And when you're doing a pre-shot ritual, you got to create one that works for you. And once you do that, it's yours. You own it, and it's something that helps you get into your zone and play your best. So that's why I really like the word ritual rather than routine.
Mm.
And, we all have rituals. We have rituals that we do daily. Some people wake up in the morning, every morning, and they go for a walk or run, or they sit quietly and meditate, or they grab a newspaper and a cup of coffee. It sets the tone for the day. And same thing when I tell people when they go to work or they go to school, before diving into a project, prioritize what's the most important thing you need to work on first, and then go into it, and that immediately raises your level of performance. And that's what I tell people to do in golf. Have a ritual that you can do every single time before a shot that raises your level of performance. Why this is important? In the game of golf, you're out there for 4 some odd hours, plus the time before, getting there and warming up. And in reality, you're only playing golf, as you know, for 2 or 3 minutes. A couple seconds of swing, 90 shots, 180 seconds. So only 2 or 3 minutes you're actually physically playing the game of golf, which means that there is a lot of downtime on the golf course. And 3 hours and 57 minutes of downtime. So a lot of distractions. So the distractions that everything from, waiting for your playing partners, looking for your ball, analyzing your swing, looking for the cart, beverage cart, talking on the cell phone. These are all distractions. So what you need to do is when it's time to hit your shot, at the literally snap of a finger, you then focus, and that's when you go into that ritual. Mm-hmm. Real powerful. So, and again, this can be learned by anybody. And a lot of people say, "Well, gosh, I have a very short attention span." I go, "Can you concentrate for a few seconds?" And everyone says, "Yeah." So it's intimidating to say that I'm going to concentrate for 4 hours really, really hard, because no one does that very well, and quite honestly, it hurts when you do that. It's supposed to be fun on the golf course. So I tell people, you're only going to have to concentrate for seconds at a time, total of about 3 minutes. And if you can do that, then this game, you're going to play at your best. And so that's why we tell people to walk through their ritual. Create a ritual that works for you, and it's almost, you snap your fingers, and then boom, you're in that zone.
If you only knew how tough it was for me to focus for 30 minutes of an interview. But this has been very simple. No, ADD boy. So listen.
Well, it's funny you mentioned ADD, right? So yeah. I've worked with, I'd say, at least a dozen kids who've been diagnosed ADHD, and that, for some of the listeners who don't know, that's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And in that, a lot of people write them up. They say, oh, they'll never be able to play golf because they can't focus. And parents and grandparents that have brought them to me say, is this something they could do? I certainly, in fact, you'd be amazed how well they do. And they come to the program, and we teach them these little techniques that they can really just focus just like that. And it's amazing how you can see the change in demeanor over the 2.5 hours that they're with us, how they can just literally, at the snap of a finger, focus and concentrate. And I get a lot of emails from folks and parents that said how helpful that's been.
Well, it's interesting with the new studies that are coming out about ADD and ADHD, and my personal experience, but it really is an ability to hyper-focus as well.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. It's not just you're distracted by everything. It's that you're absorbing everything that's going on.
That's right.
And so being able to hyper-focus is really great for golf.
Yeah, and that's what you need to do. No matter who you are and what your background is, and you really need to focus for that just split second. And once you get that in golf, that makes it a lot easier when you're at work or when you're with your child, or with your you're doing something on your own. So it's really neat to see it transfer out to the rest of your life too.
Exactly. Hey, Darrin, listen, we've pretty much run out of time today.
Okay.
And I'd like to tease the listeners and ask you to come back next week.
You bet.
But you'll just stick around and we'll record another interview right now.
Let's do it.
But you want to do that? Is that fine?
That's good. I've got
We've
time.
only gotten up to number 4, and I have questions about number 4, so let's do 4 through 7.
Okay.
And let's tell everyone again that they should just go check out spiritofgolfhawaii.com. And, of course, there's no spaces. It's all one word, spiritofgolfhawaii.com. And it's part of the Spirit of Golf Academy, Mastering the Mental Game of Golf. There's a book. There's DVDs. You should definitely check it out. And we'll have part 2 of this conversation next week. All right? Darrin, thanks a lot.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Fred.